Hey, how's it going? My name is Grant Chiasson. I'm a mental performance coach, and today I want to talk about how resilient athletes will inevitably become champions. So, whether this being on the field, whether this being, specifically with sport or just in general in life, you're going to be able to see some trends here that I've mapped out for you to help you understand that being a champion doesn't have to be just on your performance, right? It's all based off of what you do, how you contribute to your team, and then ultimately your process, your standard, your success. So in the state that we're in right now in 2026, I can tell you things have changed. When I was an athlete in 2008, 2012, the big thing was nutrition and supplements, right? Learning about protein, learning about actually taking care of your body with what you eat, and then ultimately what supplements we need to take to get bigger, stronger, faster, recover quickly. Uh, Creatine was still like a myth. It's not this what it is now, where it's like a vital part of our nutrition. But now moving forward to 2026, mental frameworks, toughness, discipline, embracing boredom, those are all things that are going to set you apart as an athlete in terms of going beyond your potential and doing what others aren't, right? So this is more important than ever because in actuality, we're in a state of never ending softness as a society. Okay. We just see people complain. We see people give up, hit the portal and do all these things that essentially they just kind of back down on discomfort. Okay. So we need to have the mental frameworks. And I'm not saying the portal's bad and things like this. Like that's probably what I needed to do when I was playing ball. But I mean, the reality of it is you've got to be mentally tough in order to really be able to attack your process and navigate all these systems and the state that we're in, right? So you have to be certain of one singular thing every single day, right? That you'll be you. And that needs to be a force. When you're certain of that, when you know who you are, when you know what you're capable of, then we start talking about becoming a different type of athlete. So the big one here, let me highlight this actually, because this is what's causing a lot of people some trouble, right? Comparison. Okay. Anything that anybody else does or accomplishes or is able to do in their sport or relatively similar to you is totally irrelevant, right? This is only built around who you are, what you're capable of, and being able to attack your process and live to your standard. So comparison just brings you down. It does nothing. It's only you versus you, 1% better every day. So who am I? Again, my name is Grant Chiasson. I'm a former Division I quarterback. I failed miserably. Okay. I left 3 years of eligibility on the table because I wasn't able to just take a grasp on the whole process and pressure around it, right? I kept thinking I was letting down my family, letting down myself. I wasn't playing like myself. Confidence was gone completely. And it just came down to me essentially, giving up and leaving it on the table, which I have to live with. But what I've learned and what I really hope to do is any athlete that I coach or come across with, I'm making sure that when they leave the game, it's on their own terms and they're moving on peacefully, riding off into the sunset, if you will. Okay. So with that experience, I decided to specialize in psychology. That's when I got my master's in psych. And then I started teaching and coaching high school football where I met my wife. We have our 3 kids. Here's an awesome picture of me coaching in the Superdome for a state championship back in 2024. We lost by 3 points. So tough pill to swallow, but you just keep moving on. You keep going to the next stage, right? So then I've said, okay, how can I actually turn this into a business and do something that I love and something that can help athletes when it's all said and done? And that became becoming a mental performance coach, like I had mentioned. So Brian Kane, Ben Newman, these were the guys that I looked up right away who are the best of the best. And I said, I want to learn from these guys right off the bat. So you can see some athletes I've helped here. I have a ton of cool stories about these guys. Some are still playing, some are moving on. My boy Jax is into like the hybrid athlete model where he's running all over the place and lifting and he's crushing it. And maybe you just transfer it to SMU and all these good things, right? So I've helped a ton of athletes. I love doing it. I'm obsessed. It's my passion. I'm very thankful that I get to wake up and do this every day. I'm also a writer by trade, I guess. It comes with being part of owning a business. So you can subscribe to my Substack where I deliver an article every Friday, wrote a bunch of cool articles. Of course, I run a business, coaching, mental performance, certain teams, friends. That's my number one. I like to trade, do some options, and I'm a big investor. And I have to create because you can't be in an online presence without creating and being, omnipresent to a certain extent. So those are all the things that I get to do. And I get to do that on top of being a dad to Lucy, Ben, and Anna. So it's been awesome. It's great. But back to where we're going with this. All right. So here's the proof that this is the difference maker, right? There's too much research to prove to you that if you train your mindset, you train your resilience, you're going to see positive outcomes. You're going to see differences. I know it personally, right? I've gone through this in a stage of burnout as a 30-year-old coach. My wife was pregnant for Benjamin. And I mean, I'm telling you, it was like every day I just had the chest tightness. Everything was going well on paper. I mean, we were dominating. We were scoring points like crazy. I was calling the plays. It was like a cheat code. I could call any play at any point. We scored a touchdown from some different way. We just had athletes and crazy systems and an awesome culture. But I was always worried. I was always thinking negatively. And it just got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. And, I remember having like a full blown panic attack before a week 10 game. And it was like, okay, this is the reality check I needed. So I dove into the mindset training. I dove into applying what I've been teaching for years as a psychology teacher and using it to change my life, change the way that I think about things and the way that I go about my process. And it's been incredible. Countless testimonials. I'll leave a link to those in the description. Everybody I worked with, people who were talking about when they started their mindset training. Even the greats, Tom Brady, when he walked into Greg Harden's office, Greg Harden said, you need to change your attitude and you need to work on being a better person. And he said, okay. And he did it. And the rest became history, right? It's when you find these things, you find the proof, the evidence that working on yourself, being the best version of yourself works. It just becomes a matter of how does it work? How does it work for you? And that's where I typed in belief, right? You have to believe that training your mindset, training what you do is going to work. Okay. You have to set the tone for yourself, right? I hate getting into a cold plunge. It is horrible. Okay. But I try to do it as often as possible because I know I'm going to feel better. And then when stress comes around, I'm going to react better to it as well. I know how to regulate my nervous system in that way. That's good for me. That might be different for somebody else, right? So when you look at it, there's always proof and there's always research to back it. If not, hey, leave a comment if you can't find proof, because I will personally reach out to you and show you what this can do for you, right? So let's dive into the actual qualities that you need to build resilience. Okay. So let's talk about the mistake myth. All right. We keep thinking mistakes are so bad, and I get it. It's okay. But at the same time, like, you've got to reframe this. If you let a mistake affect your ability and your performance right now, you've lost. You've already lost to yourself. So we have to reframe mistakes into actual gifts. So what do I mean by that? When we make a mistake, it just tells us like, okay, we found a glitch in our process. We found a hole in our training, something that's going to make us work at a faster pace towards getting over that specific wrinkle in our game. Okay. The gift of a challenge and feedback reveal exactly who you are. So, we'd go on these streaks where we'd win 5 games in a row and we thought we were just so awesome. But then we played a quality opponent and man, we get smacked in the mouth very early, first quarter, second quarter. And that's when we'd find out as a team who we are. That's when I'd find out as a play caller who I was, right? You were able to build that system and determine that, okay, this is who we are. Let's go get it done. And basically, when you make a mistake, it's just more validation. Either the process is working or it's not working, depending on the magnitude of it, right? If you throw an interception at practice or in a game, or striking out on a little slump, something about your process has to be adjusted. Something's got to be a little bit uncomfortable for you to change the process and attack the next step. All right. So next part 2, your response rate to mistakes and basically anything is like the golden egg, right? If you can master how you respond and how quickly you respond to adversity, setbacks, or even good things, right? That's going to determine how well you can adjust and become an incredible athlete or extremely mentally tough athlete, right? So this is where you're going to set yourself apart. If you're in a heated competition with somebody and it's the coach has to decide, I'm telling you this from a standpoint of a coach. If coach says we got to find the one that can, react quicker and make the changes quicker, they're going to go with the one who's faster no matter what. It's always the next play mentality. It's always moving on to exactly, the next part of your process, whether it be in training a game or even recovery. I say active recovery. I'm the biggest believer in recovery total. I have a highly competitive collegiate golfer who's on vacation this week. And guess what? I said, dude, you deserve it. You've had a crazy summer. Go relax. Here's what I want you to write down in your journal with our entries for this week. And he went and he's doing it. Simple. All right. So I like to think about the Flash. Like when he goes into hyperspeed, it's like this superpower of just everything else is in slow motion, right? So when you can get comfortable enough in a game or performance or scenario where you can just see the big picture and slow down and just recognize all the things that are happening, you become a lot more comfortable and your performance just skyrockets. Okay. It's not easy to get there. You're not going to wake up and be some super quick analytical athlete. This is going to take time. It's going to take effort and discipline, right? You're going to have to say no to distractions. You're going to have to say no to things that are going to stop you from being the best athlete you can be. All right. Gratitude for challenge, like being grateful that you have a challenge in your life. Like so many people just wake up and nothing's challenging to them. There's no discomfort. They just go through the boring days and they're the ones who complain that they're miserable every day too. It happens, right? But for us as competitive athletes, we're looking for a challenge. We're looking for the next hill to climb. So this is the fun part. Now we're going to get into reframing, right? So basically when you reframe, all right, when you take something and you change the entire way that you look at it, okay? The big, equation everyone talks about is event plus response equals outcome. Like how you respond to anything determines the outcome. If you complain, you don't care, you feel sorry for yourself, guess what? The outcome's probably not going to be that good. But on the flip side, if you reframe it into fuel, if you reframe it into the willpower to go attack your process and dominate to a whole nother level, now we're getting in a good space of reframing. So when I think about proof, I think about number one, this is an actual term in psychology and counseling and therapy where it's called cognitive reframing, where you literally are taking challenges and setbacks and turning them into things that are honestly only going to fuel you and help you move forward. Okay. Examples of reframing, right? So let's backtrack when I was 20 years old. All right. How could I reframe my awkward throwing motion and lack of confidence? Okay. If I had me now coaching myself from that standpoint, I would say, all right, time out, pause, go back to the basics, go learn to attack the process of the little details of your throwing motion, throwing the ball up here on the liftoff, getting some video feedback, all the things that you really need to take action towards it. You're going to reframe it. And doing that, I would have fixed the throwing motion, fixed the confidence, and move forward. On top of that, if I had somebody to say, okay, look, you're not going to play at Division I level, so what are you going to do about it? Well, I'm going to reframe this. I've had the experience of being a Division I quarterback, so now I can just take that to D2 or D3, piggyback off of that experience, and use it to operate at a high level with confidence. Unfortunately, I didn't have someone to tell me that back then. So here I am at 33 and 3 years of eligibility still on the table that just poof, went into thin air, right? So you have to condition your brain to do this. You can't just wake up and say, I'm going to reframe once a month. Like this is something you have to think about all the time. Like, and then when you say, look, today's been a good day. I have no complaints. I have nothing to reframe. What's something in the past that's affected you that you could have reframed into something positive? And that you didn't, and maybe it led you down an even worse path, whatever it might be. All right. So the big thing too, if you're going to move forward, if you're going to be a quick reset athlete, you've got to practice this. So what can we do to practice this? Well, very simple. We've got to make practice harder than the game. Okay. Super easy. We've got to make practice so difficult that we are almost like ready for the game because we know it's going to be easier. I know several college football players whose position coach or coordinators really thought that way too. And it worked. When you visualize pressure, all right, you see the worst thing that can happen. You see the worst thing that could happen in a game, in practice, in a scenario. Okay. Good news. Now you can practice for it. Now you can train for it, right? So when you think of it that way, okay, all of a sudden you're putting yourself in a position to prepare for the worst. It's still, what's the saying? Pray for the best, prepare for the worst. Okay. Pray like it's in God's hands, but act like it's in yours. That's one of my favorites. You've got to practice the pressure and then you've got to practice resetting every single day or even thinking about how am I going to reset after this happens? I struck out again. I walked a batter. What's going to happen? And then you create your custom if then plan. All right. This is an if then plan I made for one of my clients. We did this through some of the tasks or things that could happen that were the worst case scenario for him. And ultimately it came down to, identifying what his actual process would be when we had to really break it down and see what's going to be his plan, what's going to happen when he goes back to school in the fall and he's playing at a high level and he's pitching against a D1 hitter. What are we going to do to plan for the absolute worst? But when it does happen, then what's going to be our behavior, I guess you could say. Okay. And lastly, you've got to create an environment of success. So what do I mean by environment of success? I mean, you got to surround yourself with nothing but positivity, nothing but like-minded individuals. And lucky for you, I have built a community called Fearless Athletes where you can be in the same network of like-minded athletes that are looking up to level right now. Again, I'll leave a link in the description. It's awesome. We do daily coaching cues. I'm always present. You can chat with me anytime you want. We get into the live group calls on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Central Time. And then you can just be around other athletes. Yesterday, I had a Brazilian soccer player, football player, jump in, meet and greet. I hooked him up with another football player that's in the United States, and then everything worked well, right? So it's just a cool, easy place to be besides the endless doom scrolling on social media and everything like that. All right. So with that, you can engage in challenges. You can actually earn commission from enrolling your teammates and friends into the community. So create an environment, have reminders, have constant feedback of everything that's going to set you up for being the best player possible. And that starts with being resilient. So if you want to learn more, check out those links in the description and comment below what are some struggles that you might have moving forward into the fall semester coming up in the school year for your sport, and what are some mental barriers that you think you need to get over or are stopping you from getting to your highest potential. Thanks for watching. Talk soon.